Fleet Commander G1 stood in the observation deck of the massive ship called New Dawn. The metal walls around her had been home to millions of humans for 3,000 years. She was not old enough to remember Earth, but her grandmother had told her stories about blue skies and green trees. Now those were just memories passed down through generations. The ship was huge, bigger than any city that once existed on Earth. It had gardens where food grew under artificial sunlight, schools where children learned about their lost home, and factories where workers built the tools they would need for revenge. 12 ships like this one drifted through space, carrying all that remained of humanity. Lieutenant Minho rushed to her side, his young face bright with excitement. "Commander, the signal is coming through. The Deep Space Watchers have found something important." Quan walked to the main control room, where dozens of people worked at glowing screens. On the largest screen, numbers and symbols moved in patterns that told a story of the enemy. The Zephyrians, the alien race that had destroyed Earth, were no longer the powerful force they once were. "What does it say?" G1 asked the chief science officer. "Their empire is weak now, Commander. They control many worlds, but their armies are spread too thin. They have grown lazy after so many years without a real fight. Most of their soldiers have never even seen real war." G1 felt her heart beat faster. For 3,000 years, humans had been preparing for this moment. While they traveled through the cold darkness of space, they had not just survived, they had grown stronger. Their bodies were enhanced with technology that made them faster and stronger than their ancestors. Their minds had been improved too, think more clearly, and remember more than any human before them. The 12 ships had stayed in contact through quantum communication devices that could send messages instantly across any distance. Every ship had become a weapon, every person a soldier in the war that was about to begin. "Send word to all ships," G1 commanded. "Tell them the waiting is over." As the message went out, millions of humans across the fleet felt the same stirring in their hearts. Children who had never seen a real sun began to understand why their parents had taught them to fight. Adults who had spent their whole lives preparing for war felt their purpose becoming clear. "Captain," Hyun approached Q1 with a datapad in his hands. "Commander, our ships are ready. The quantum drives can take us to the Sol system in 30 days. Our cloaking technology will hide us from their sensors until we choose to reveal ourselves." G1 looked around the control room at the faces of her people. These humans were not the same species that had fled Earth long ago. They were taller, stronger, and smarter. Their eyes could see in complete darkness. Their hands could work with tiny machines that normal humans could never handle. Their minds could process information faster than the most advanced computers that Earth had ever built. But more than their physical changes, they had something else that made them dangerous. They had unity. Every human on every ship shared the same goal. They all knew the stories of Earth's green fields and blue oceans. They all carried the memory of the great burning when the Zephyrians had turned their world into ash and fire. "Begin the preparation sequence," G1 ordered. "All ships will move to combat formation. Check every weapon system, every shield generator, every piece of equipment we will need." The ship came alive with activity. In the weapons bays, engineers tested devices that could tear holes in space itself. In the medical centers, doctors prepared enhancement treatments that would make human soldiers even more deadly in battle. In the training areas, warriors practiced with weapons that fired beams of pure energy. Young pilot Nari found Jawan later as she walked through the ship's main corridor. "Commander, my grandmother told me that Earth had animals called birds that could fly through the sky. Do you think we will see birds again when we take back our home?" G1 put her hand on the young woman's shoulder. "When we are finished with the Zephyrians, we will make Earth green again. There will be birds, and trees, and flowing water. But first, we must make them pay for what they took from us." The days passed quickly as the fleet prepared for departure. Each ship ran final tests on their systems. The quantum drives hummed with power. The cloaking devices bent light around the massive vessels, making them invisible to enemy eyes. On the day of departure, Giwan activated the fleet communication system. Her voice reached every human in every ship. My people, today we begin our journey home. We have spent 3,000 years becoming something new, something stronger than we were before. The aliens who destroyed our world think we are gone forever. They are wrong. We return not as the weak species they remember, but as their judgment. Today, we go to war. The 12 ships turned toward the distant Sol system, their drives creating tears in space that would carry them home. Behind them, they left only empty space. Ahead of them waited the beginning of the end, for those who had made humanity into wanderers among the stars. Captain Hyun pressed his face against the cold glass of his scout ship's window as they entered the Sol system. His heart pounded as he saw what had become of the place his ancestors once called home. The other members of his team gathered around him, their enhanced eyes taking in the horrible sight. Where Earth should have been a beautiful blue and green world, there was now only a brown and gray rock. Massive machines moved across its surface like metal insects, digging deep holes and carrying away everything valuable. The oceans were gone. The white clouds that once danced around the planet had disappeared. Even from this distance, they could see the scars where mountains had been cut away and forests had been burned to nothing. "This is what they did to our home," whispered Pilot Nari, her voice shaking with anger. Her hands gripped the control panel so hard that the metal began to bend under her enhanced strength. The moon looked even worse. The Zephyrians had built a huge military base there, covering the surface with gray buildings and weapon towers. Ships moved in and out like busy worker ants. The aliens had turned humanity's first step into space into their own fortress. Mars glowed with the heat of giant factories. Through their advanced sensors, the team could see processing plants that turned Earth's stolen materials into products for the Zephyrian Empire. Conveyor belts stretched for miles across the red planet's surface, carrying the bones of Earth to be melted down and shipped away. "How many of them are here?" asked Engineer Dong-Yoon, his voice tight with control. He studied the readings on his screen. "Not as many as we expected. Maybe a few thousand on the moon base. A few 100,000 workers on Mars. They think this is just another conquered system that needs no real protection." The team spent 3 days watching and learning. They used their ship's advanced stealth systems to get close to enemy installations without being seen. What they discovered made them both hopeful and furious. The Zephyrians had become lazy. Their soldiers were fat and slow. Their weapons were old designs that had not been improved in hundreds of years. Their ships looked powerful, but the team's sensors showed that they used outdated technology. The aliens had spent so much time conquering weak civilizations that they had forgotten how to fight real battles. On the third night, Hume made a dangerous decision. "We're going to land on the moon and get inside their base." The others looked at him with surprise. "That's too risky," said Nari. "If they catch us, the whole mission could fail." "We need to know how they think," Hyun replied. "We need to understand their weaknesses before the fleet arrives." Using their ship's cloaking system, they landed in a crater on the far side of the moon. The team put on their advanced spacesuits that could hide them from enemy sensors and began the dangerous journey to the Zephyrian base. The aliens had built their base with walls that looked strong but were actually quite weak. Hyun's team used tiny machines that could eat through metal to create a small hole in the outer wall. One by one, they crawled inside. The base was full of Zephyrian soldiers, but they were not what humans had expected. These aliens were fat and moved slowly. They spent most of their time eating and sleeping. Their weapons hung on walls covered with dust. Their security systems were old and easy to trick. Dong-Yoon connected his portable computer to the alien network and began copying their files. Within minutes, he had downloaded their military plans, their supply routes, and their communication codes. The Zephyrians had made no effort to protect their information, because they believed no enemy could reach this far into their territory. "Look at this," Nari whispered, as they moved through a command room. On the walls were pictures of different worlds the aliens had conquered. Earth was just one small image among thousands. To them, the destruction of humanity's home was nothing special, just another day's work. But the most shocking discovery came when they found the aliens' historical records. The Zephyrians barely remembered humans at all. Their files described Earth's people as primitive bipeds, with no significant technology. They had not even bothered to study human culture or learn human names. To them, humanity had been just another species to eliminate, no more important than insects. "They don't even know we survived," realized Hian. "They think they killed all of us 3,000 years ago." The team spent 2 more hours gathering information before returning to their ship. As they flew away from the moon, they carried with them the complete plans of the enemy's defenses, and the knowledge that the Zephyrians had no idea what was coming for them. Back on the fleet, Hian delivered his report to Commander G. "They are weak, overconfident, and unprepared. They have forgotten that humans even existed. We can hit them before they know what's happening." Jiwan listened to every detail of what the team had learned. When Hian finished speaking, she turned to address the other ship commanders who had gathered in the communication room. "The enemy thinks we are dead," she said, her voice filled with cold determination. "Soon, they will learn that dead things can still bite. Prepare for the attack. It's time to show them that humanity remembers everything." The attack began when 3 Zephyrian moons were still dark. Admiral Doyan sat in the command chair of his ship Eternal Fury, watching as 12 human fleets moved into position around the Sol system. Each ship was invisible to enemy sensors, like ghosts, preparing to strike. "All teams report ready," announced Captain Jinwoo, over the communication system. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the excitement underneath. This was the moment they had trained for their entire lives. Doyan looked at the tactical display showing enemy positions. The Zephyrians had no idea death was coming for them. Their guards were asleep. Their weapons were powered down. Their ships sat in neat rows like targets, waiting to be destroyed. "Begin Phase 1, Doyan commanded. The first strike hit the lunar base. Major Suyan led a team of enhanced human soldiers who moved through space without making a sound. They landed on the moon's surface and cut through the base's outer walls with tools that could slice through any metal. The Zephyrian guards never saw them coming. Inside the base, the aliens were eating their evening meal when human soldiers appeared like shadows. Sion's team moved faster than normal eyes could follow. Their enhanced bodies made them stronger than any Zephyrian, and their weapons fired beams of energy that could cut through armor like paper. The fat Zephyrian soldiers tried to reach their weapons, but they were too slow. 3,000 years of easy living had made them weak. They had never faced an enemy that could fight back, and they did not know what to do when death came for them with human faces. "Moonbase secured," Suyang reported. "No enemy survivors, no human casualties." At the same time, Captain Min-jae led the assault on the Mars factories. His ships dropped from the sky like falling stars, their weapons turning the alien processing plants into balls of fire. The Zephyrian workers ran in panic, but there was nowhere to hide. The human ships used weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Some fired bullets that could pass through solid walls and explode inside their targets. Others shot beams that froze everything they touched to absolute zero. The most terrifying weapons created small black holes that sucked enemy ships into nothing. "Mars facilities destroyed," reported Min-jae. "The factories are gone. They won't be stealing anything else from our world." But the humans were just getting started. Lieutenant Nari piloted her fighter ship toward the asteroid belt where the Zephyrians had built mining stations. Her ship was so fast that it seemed to be in 3 places at once. confusing the enemy's sensors and making their defensive weapons shoot at empty space. The mining stations exploded one by one as Nara's squadron swept through the asteroid field. Each explosion sent chunks of rock and metal spinning into space, destroying other Zephyrian installations nearby. Within an hour, every alien presence in the asteroid belt had been wiped out. Asteroid mining operations eliminated, Nari reported, moving to support the main fleet. The largest battle took place near Jupiter, where the Zephyrians had built a fuel depot to supply their ships. Commander Jayan brought 5 human battlecruisers against a Zephyrian defense fleet of 20 ships. The aliens thought their numbers would give them victory. But they were wrong. The human ships moved in patterns that seemed impossible, dodging enemy fire while striking back with weapons that could bend space itself. One human ship would appear to be destroyed, only to reappear behind the enemy and destroy 3 alien vessels with a single shot. The Zephyrian commanders tried to call for help, but the humans had jammed all their communications. No distress signals would reach the alien homeworld. No warnings would be sent. The Zephyrian Empire would learn about humanity's return only when human ships arrived at their doorstep. As the battle raged, some Zephyrian soldiers began to understand what they were facing. These were not the weak primitives their ancestors had conquered. These were evolved humans who had spent 3,000 years becoming the perfect weapons of revenge. "What are they?" screamed one alien commander as his ship was torn apart by weapons he could not understand. "They're the dead come back to life," replied his gunner, just before their ship exploded by the end of the day. Every Zephyrian installation in the Sol system had been destroyed. The human fleet suffered no losses. Not a single human soldier had died, while thousands of aliens floated, frozen in the vacuum of space. Admiral Doyan stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the system where humanity had been born. The enemy was gone, but their work was not finished. Earth was still a dead rock that needed to be healed. The Zephyrian Empire still controlled thousands of other worlds where they continued their crimes. "Send a message to the fleet," Doyan ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Sol belongs to humanity again. But this is only the beginning. Now we take the war to their home worlds. Now we show them what 3,000 years of anger can do." The human ships began to move toward the edge of the solar system, ready to carry their storm of vengeance to every corner of Zephyrian space. The aliens had awakened something they could not control, and now they would pay the price for their ancient crime. High Commander Vexstar stood in the Great War Room on Zephyr Prime, staring at the holographic display that showed their empire. Red warning lights blinked across dozens of star systems, each one marking a place where something terrible had happened to their forces. "What do you mean the Sol garrison is gone?" he demanded, his 4 arms gesturing wildly at the junior officers around the table. Communications Officer Krellenok shuffled his feet nervously. "Sir, we lost all contact with Sol system 3 days ago. The last message said unknown ships were approaching. Then, nothing. Complete silence." Vextar's skin changed color from blue to angry red. The Sol system was supposed to be a quiet mining operation. Nothing important happened there. It was just another dead world they had conquered long ago, inhabited only by some primitive creatures they had eliminated without effort. "Send a patrol ship to investigate," he ordered. But before the patrol could be sent, worse news arrived. Captain Nexgol burst into the war room with terror in his 6 eyes. "Sir, the Kepler colony is under attack. Ships we've never seen before are destroying everything." The holographic display changed to show a live feed from Kepler colony, one of their major industrial worlds. Alien ships, unlike anything in the Zephyrian database, moved through space with impossible speed and grace. They fired weapons that seemed to bend reality itself, turning proud Zephyrian battlecruisers into twisted metal and flame. "Where did these ships come from?" Vexstar asked, but no one had answers. Admiral Sulman watched the destruction from her flagship Phoenix Rising, hidden among the moons of a gas giant. Her human fleet had moved deep into Zephyrian territory, while their enemy was still trying to understand what had happened at Sol. The aliens were slow to react, just as the intelligence reports had predicted. "Target their orbital shipyards," she commanded. "Make sure they can't build any replacements for what we're about to destroy." The human ships emerged from hiding like predators, striking at prey. Their weapons systems had been perfected over 3,000 years of planning and development. Each shot was precise, each movement calculated to cause maximum damage with minimal waste. The Zephyrian defenders fought back, but their weapons were designed for conquering defenseless worlds, not for battling an enemy that could fight as well as they could. Their commanders had grown fat and lazy after centuries of easy victories. They had forgotten how to adapt when their standard tactics failed. At the same time, Commander Yuna was leading a different kind of attack on the mining world of Grexstar. Her ships broadcast a message on all frequencies, telling the story of Earth's destruction and humanity's long exile among the stars. "People of Grexstar," her voice echoed across the planet. "The Zephyrian Empire destroyed our world and scattered our people. Today, we return for justice. Join us, and you will be free. Stand with them, and you will share their fate." The message had a powerful effect. Grexstar was inhabited by the Valkyrie, a gentle species that the Zephyrians had conquered 200 years earlier. The Valkyrie had been forced to work in dangerous mines, digging up resources to feed the Empire's endless hunger for wealth. Within hours of Yuna's broadcast, Valkyrie workers began sabotaging the mining equipment. They attacked their overseers with tools and bare hands. The planet erupted in rebellion as decades of anger finally found an outlet. "The natives are revolting on 17 different worlds," reported Intelligence Officer Jawan to Admiral Soman. "Our broadcasts are working. The subject species remember their own conquered homeworlds when they hear about Earth." This was part of the human strategy that the Zephyrians could not understand. Humans did not just want military victory. They wanted to destroy the Empire's ability to control other species through fear. Every world that rebelled meant fewer resources for the alien military machine. Back on Zephyr Prime, panic was spreading through the government buildings. High Commander Vexstar received reports of disaster from every corner of the Empire. Entire fleets were disappearing without sending distress signals. Important worlds were falling to unknown attackers, who seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. "Who is doing this to us?" he demanded of his advisors. Old Scholar Drinket stepped forward with a data pad in his clawed hands. "Sir, I have been researching our historical records. There is mention of a species called humans that we eliminated from the Sol system 3,000 years ago. But some of our ancient files suggest that a few of their ships escaped before we could finish the extermination." Vexstar's skin turned pale. "Are you telling me that this is revenge for something that happened 3,000 years ago? That's impossible. They were primitives, with barely any technology." "Sir," said Drenket quietly, 3,000 years is a very long time. If they survived, if they had time to grow and develop, they might have become something very different from what they were." The truth hit Vexstar like a physical blow. The Empire was under attack by the ghosts of their own past crimes. The humans had not just survived their attempted extinction. They had evolved into something far more dangerous than the Zephyrians had ever imagined. "Assemble the Grand Fleet," he ordered, his voice shaking. "Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. If these humans want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." But deep in space, Admiral Soman smiled as she received reports of the enemy's panic. The Zephyrians were finally beginning to understand what they faced, but it was already too late. The skies above Zephyr Prime burned red as the final human fleet emerged from hyperspace. Fleet Admiral Jiwan stood on the bridge of her flagship Vengeance, Eternal, looking down at the world that had ordered Earth's destruction 3,000 years ago. Around her, the largest human battle fleet ever assembled, prepared for the war's final moments. Below them, the Zephyrian Grand Fleet waited in desperate formation. Every ship the Empire could gather had been pulled back to defend their homeworld. Thousands of vessels filled the space around the planet, their weapons powered and ready. It was the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen, but Jiwan felt no fear. "Admiral, they're trying to communicate with us," reported Communications Officer Minho. "Let them speak," Jiwan replied. "I want to hear what they have to say when death comes calling." The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of High Commander Vexter. The alien leader's skin had turned pale with fear, and his forearms shook as he spoke. "Unknown fleet, we offer you terms of surrender. Name your price, and we will pay it. There is no need for more bloodshed." Jiwan stepped forward, so the alien could see her clearly. "I am Fleet Admiral Jiwan, of the Human Revenge Fleet. 3,000 years ago, your people destroyed my homeworld and murdered billions of my ancestors. Did you offer them terms of surrender?" Vextar's eyes widened with recognition and terror. You're human. But that's impossible. We eliminated your species completely." "You tried," Jiwan said calmly. "You failed. And now we have returned to finish what you started." The battle began with a sound like thunder breaking across the void. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with every weapon they possessed, filling space with energy beams and explosive missiles. For a moment, the human ships disappeared behind walls of fire and destruction. But when the smoke cleared, the human fleet was still there. Their shields had absorbed the enemy attack without taking any real damage. The technology humanity had developed during their long exile was beyond anything the Zephyrians could imagine. Captain Yon led the first wave of human ships into the enemy formation. His vessels moved like dancers, spinning and diving between the larger alien ships, while firing weapons that tore holes in space itself. Each human ship seemed to be in 3 places at once, confusing the enemy targeting systems and making their return fire useless. "Their shields are stronger than our weapons," screamed a Zephyrian captain over the communication channels. "How is this possible?" The answer came in the form of human boarding pods that punched through the hulls of enemy ships like bullets through paper. Major Suyan led teams of enhanced human soldiers who moved through the alien vessels like deadly shadows. The Zephyrian crew members, soft from centuries of easy living, could not stand against warriors who had been bred and trained for this single purpose. Admiral Soman commanded the second wave, targeting the planet's defensive stations with weapons that froze matter to absolute zero. The massive orbital platforms that protected Zephyr Prime cracked and shattered like glass, their debris falling toward the planet's surface in burning streaks. But the humans were not finished. Commander Yuna's Psychological Warfare Division began broadcasting across all frequencies, telling the story of Earth's destruction to every listening ear in the galaxy. Her words reached not just the Zephyrian military, but the billions of conquered species who lived under the Empire's rule. "Today, the children of Earth have returned," Yuna's voice echoed across space. "We have come to show the galaxy that no crime goes unpunished, no genocide goes unanswered. Let this be a lesson to all who would destroy worlds and murder innocents." On planets throughout Zephyrian space, oppressed species heard those words and rose in rebellion. The empire that had seemed so strong began to collapse from within as its subject peoples remembered their own lost homeworlds and dead families. As the battle raged, High Commander Vextar made one final desperate attempt to save his people. "We surrender," he broadcast on all channels. "We acknowledge human superiority. We will pay any price you demand." Fleet Admiral Jiwan's response was heard across the galaxy. 3,000 years ago, when your ships filled Earth's skies with fire, did you listen to the cries of our children? When you turned our oceans to steam and our cities to ash, did you show mercy to our innocent people? The final human assault began as the sun set on Zephyr Prime. Ships that could bend time and space descended through the planet's atmosphere like angels of judgment. The great cities that had grown rich on the wealth of stolen worlds burned bright against the darkening sky. But unlike their enemies, the humans showed mercy to the innocent. Evacuation ships rescued Zephyrian civilians, carrying them to safety. Before the military installations were destroyed, children and families were saved, though their leaders and soldiers faced the same fate they had given to Earth. As the last Zephyrian stronghold fell, Gaiwan stood again before the communication array. "The Zephyrian Empire is no more," she announced to the galaxy. "Let this day be remembered. Let it be known that humanity has returned, and we will guard the innocent from those who would destroy them." The war was over. Earth could finally rest in peace. And across the galaxy, a new age began under humanity's watchful protection.